Okay, so we're going to apply the rules of indices here to algebraic expression, okay? And when we have this in the exam, we usually have two different types of questions. One where we're timesing terms, and then second question then where we're adding terms, okay? So it's important you use the rules of indices carefully, okay? Now you might remember quite clearly from GCSE that when you timesing terms, you add the powers, yeah? Okay, that's important. So straight away here in this question, okay, you know, we timesing, yeah? So when you've got the big numbers in front, you should be timesing these, shouldn't you? Okay, literally do as it says. It says times, doesn't it? So do 6 times 5, which is 30. Okay, but then when it comes to the powers, because you're timesing the terms, remember with the powers, you add them, don't you? So you'll have x to the power 3 over 2 plus 1/4. Okay, now we'll work that out in a minute. Okay, and then that will be divided by this here. Now, another rule of indices, right? We've got this here. Now, we're not timesing as such here, right? We've got one power raised to another power. Okay, and that was like the sort of third rule of indices from GCSE, okay, that you learnt. Remember that there was the most obvious rule, the two obvious rules were when you're timesing, you add the powers. When you're dividing, you take away the powers. But then you've got this third rule. When you've got one power raised to another, you times the terms, right? So on the bottom, this will be x to the 5 times 1/4. Okay? So what I would do, I wouldn't mess around here. I would use my calculator just to make sure we're right on this. So 3 over 2. Okay? 3 over 2 plus 1/4. And we get 7 over 4, right, on the top. So just take your time on this. Don't try and do it all in one go. Just, you know, sort out the top powers there by adding them. Okay? And then on the bottom, now that's straightforward, that one there, isn't it? You use your calculator to check if you're not sure, but when you times these here, you just times the top numbers then, you have 5/4, yeah? 5 times a quarter is 5/4. And then, going back to our basic rule of indices, remember with the second rules of indices we learnt, when you're dividing powers, okay, when you're dividing terms, you take away the powers. So this will be 30x to the power 7 over 4, take away 5 over 4. Okay, so that will be then 30x. Now, 7 they're both the same denominator, aren't they? So 7 take away 5 is 2. So 2 over 4, which actually works out to be a half. Okay, and there's our answer. Now, with part 2, you've got to be a bit more careful because we're adding the terms on the top, right? And when you add the terms on the top, okay, there isn't a rule of indices, right? There isn't a rule that we've learnt, okay? The rules only we learnt are when you're timesing terms, okay? And then when you're dividing them, okay? And then when you've got one power raised to another. Those are the rules you learnt. But when you're adding terms, there isn't a rule. So you've got to be careful with this question. Now what I do, right, I just think of the fact that we're adding these terms and then we're dividing it by this. So, you know, another way of thinking about it is instead of adding them first and dividing by this, why don't we split it up? So we'll divide this term by this term, and then we'll divide this term by this term, and then we'll add them. Okay? So instead of sort of adding them first and then dividing the total by this, we're splitting it up and we are dividing them both by this and then adding the result. And it is much easier if you do that. So to start with, 3y to the power 1/5 over 5y to the power 1/5 plus then 2y to the power 6 over 5 divided by 5y to the power 1/5. Okay, and then, right, now you've got a 3/5, which, you know, can't be cancelled, can it? So that's going to stay as 3/5. Okay, but if you notice, y to the power 1/5 divided by y to the power 1/5, well, they're the same, aren't they? They're the same, so they'll cancel each other out. Okay, it just goes. So you just get 3 over 5. Okay, you know, you could use the rules of indices because you're dividing, you take away the powers. And if you take away the powers, 1/5 take away 1/5 is 0. And y to the power 0 is just 1. Okay, anything to the power 0 is 1. Anyway, on to this one. Now you've got 2 over 5 here. And again, the rule of indices here now, we're going to take away the powers. So 6 over 5, take away 1 over 5. And if you think about it there, 6/5 take away 1/5 is 5/5, which is just a whole. So that will just turn out to be 2 over 5 y to the power 1, which I'm not going to write. 1. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And there we've got our simplified answer.